Okay, so today we're going to dig into this absolutely brilliant short story by the great Leo Tolstoy. It's a fantastic, kind of absurd fable about this tiny little kingdom that runs into a problem that feels, well, incredibly modern. I mean, what happens when doing the right thing, when justice itself is just too expensive? Let's get into it.
So, this is the big question at the very heart of the story, right? It's a dilemma that's going to push a tiny, picturesque little kingdom to the absolute limits of logic, of morality, and maybe most importantly, of its budget.
Now, to really get the vibe of this place, Tolstoy gives us this little proverb. It's basically a huge clue about the flexible morality at play here. This is a state that's not exactly built on honest work, but on a very profitable and, let's be honest, a very questionable source of income. Okay, let's set the scene. Our story takes place in the tiny, almost toy-like kingdom of Monaco. You know, nestled right on the shores of the Mediterranean, squeezed between France and Italy.
And when I say tiny, I mean tiny. The whole place has only about 7,000 people living in it. To put that in perspective, if you tried to divide up all the land, you couldn't even give everyone a full acre. And get this, its entire army is just 60 men. 60! So, we're not talking about a global superpower here. We're talking about a miniature kingdom where everything is about to get very, very ridiculous.
So how does this little kingdom even pay its bills? Well, it holds a monopoly on a gaming house, a casino, basically. The king himself admits it's a dirty business, especially since Germany had already banned them. But hey, he can't afford to give up that sweet, sweet revenue. So into this weirdly peaceful, orderly little kingdom, something happens that has literally never happened before. A murder is committed. Okay, so the wheels of justice start turning, and they turn fast. They hold a trial, everything's done by the book, and the court follows the law exactly. The man is sentenced to death. But then they hit a snag. A really, really embarrassing problem, actually. It turns out they had the sentence, but they had no way to actually carry it out. I mean, they didn't have a guillotine just lying around, and they certainly didn't have an official executioner on the payroll. Whoops. And this is where things get truly hilarious. It starts this bureaucratic quest to find an affordable way to carry out justice. They literally start bargain hunting for an execution. So first, they write to their neighbors in France. The quote comes back, 16,000 francs. Whoa, way too expensive. So they try Italy. Italy is a bit cheaper, a bargain at 12,000 francs. But even that, nope, still too much for the king's budget. Okay, so plan C is, hey, we've got 60 soldiers, can't one of them do it? But this fails spectacularly. The soldiers are like, no, that is not in our job description. We weren't taught how to do that. So totally stuck, the council has a meeting and decides, all right, you know what, forget execution. They changed the sentence to life imprisonment. It's cheaper, right? And bonus, they can spin it to make the prince look merciful. Win-win. But this is where Tolstoy, the master, really starts to have fun. Because what seems like a practical solution, it just opens up a whole new, much funnier can of worms. Okay, fast forward a year. The king's looking over the budget, and he spots this new expense. Over 600 francs a year just to maintain this one prisoner. It's for his food, which they're getting from the palace kitchen, by the way, and for a special guard to watch him. So what's their brilliant idea to save money this time? They just fire the guard. They figure, hey, the door's unlocked, no one's watching, he'll just run away. Problem solved. But he doesn't leave. Can you believe it? He just walks out, gets his dinner from the palace, and walks right back into his cell. So the ministers confront him, and he starts complaining to them. He basically lays out this perfect legal argument. You were supposed to execute me, you didn't. You ruined my reputation, I can't get a job now. In short, he refuses to leave. So now what do? You have a prisoner who literally refuses to be free, a guy who has made the jail his permanent home. Well, the council comes up with its most ridiculous and yet kind of logical solution yet. They decide to offer him a pension. How much? 600 francs a year. Yeah, you heard that right. The exact same amount it was costing them to keep him locked up. The only condition is he has to leave the kingdom for good. And there it is. That is the punchline of the whole satire. After all their penny pinching and committee meetings, they realize the most economical solution is to just pay the murderer an annual salary to go away.
And of course he accepts. He takes an advance, moves just across the frontier, buys a little plot of land, and becomes a market gardener. He lives happily ever after. And the absolute cherry on top, he regularly comes back to Monaco, not just to collect his pension, but to gamble at the very gaming tables that funded the kingdom that now funds him. You just can't make this stuff up.
So this brings us all the way back to the title, Too Dear. What does it really mean?
Well, this is the final brilliant lesson in Tolstoy's masterclass of irony.
Because you see, Too Dear wasn't just about the francs needed for a guillotine or a guard. It was about the moral price of prioritizing cost over justice, of practicality over principle. And that leaves us with a truly timeless question to think about.